Welcome. We're here talking with Dr. Charles Flexner, from the illustrious Johns Hopkins University. He's also the principal investigator for a group called LEAP, which is an NIH program for long-acting antivirals and extended release, and then the P stands for program.
Correct, yes.
Okay. It's a mouthful.
It is indeed. That's why you just want to call it LEAP.
LEAP, exactly.
And it is a great leap forward.
It is a leap forward, and I guess it beats having to come up with all those words every time you talk.
Absolutely,
it's crazy. So we're here at CROI 2018, obviously, and I do want you to talk about LEAP. But before that, do you see anything at the conference that you find personally interesting, long-acting or otherwise?
So there's been a lot of great stuff at this conference, Andy, honestly, but in the long-acting arena, I think the thing that may be of interest that people don't know about is the first descriptions of the possibility of delivering antiretrovirals through a transdermal patch.
You mean like the nicotine patch kind of thing?
Exactly like that, yeah.
But without the nicotine?
Without the nicotine, and the technology is different to allow delivery over a long period of time of a drug that might not be as potent as nicotine, but that one would need in their system for days or weeks or even months.
Huh. So, I mean, those things, I've never used a patch like that, but it looks like a piece of tape to me. And how does the molecule of the medication get into your skin?
So the technology we're talking about is something called a microneedle. So these are actually synthetic, literally needles. They look like, under the microscope, they look like tiny little cones. And you embed them in a piece of plastic, essentially, on what would be something like a Band-Aid.
Okay.
You press that onto your skin, and once you press it hard enough, those little micro needles actually go down through the layer of your skin, and once they do that, the drug that's in the needle begins to diffuse out of the needle into your skin and is taken up by into your bloodstream.
Wow.
So it sounds kind of scary.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, it would be like the equivalent of several thousand mosquitoes sticking little mosquito probes through your skin.
Yeah, not a great analogy. That doesn't sound fun either.
Except that, when a mosquito bites you, it's painless.
You don't feel it.
You don't feel it. What bothers people about mosquito bites is the reaction to the mosquito saliva, which happens after the mosquito has been on your skin for a while.
So if you trade that out with drug,
it's a very similar process. And so there's some really interesting applications for this. The most important probably is not just the obvious, which is a way to deliver drug without an injection. But if you think about the ability to immediately deliver drug to people who can't easily swallow pills, like neonates, like newborns, like small children. So, kids don't mind having a Band-Aid on their skin, but they sure as heck don't want a needle.
But couldn't they rip it off?
So that's actually very interesting. With a newborn or a young kid, if you put a patch in the middle of their back, until they're 6 or 9 months old, they don't have enough muscle control to remove a patch like that from their back. And that patch could stay there for, if you wanted it to, it could stay there for several days. However, there are two kinds of microneedles. There are microneedles that dissolve, and there are microneedles that don't dissolve. So the system I was talking to you about just now would be the non-dissolvable kind. You push the needle into the skin, the drug's released from the needles, it goes into your circulation, and then
again,
at some point...
not as scary, because it's not like a regular needle getting a shot or...
Correct.
It's still painless.
It would be painless. It would be like, like the mosquito bite, like something so small penetrating your skin that you don't even feel it.
Also great for neonates and kids.
Absolutely correct. So the dissolvable microneedles, though, get pressed into the skin, hit your skin, begin to dissolve over a few minutes to a few hours, and then you take the patch off, and the drug with the carrier is already in your skin, and off it goes.
And it can last?
It's the equivalent of taking a pill without taking a pill. It's essentially a transdermal pill, if you will.
So would you need to do that daily?
You could imagine developing a patch that was a once-a-day patch, or a once-a-week patch, maybe a once-a-month patch. And so it all depends upon the pharmacology of the drug that's in the patch and how long it lasts. But for infants, right now, it's so difficult to get oral antiretrovirals into an infant. Even if it was a once-a-day patch, that would be a huge breakthrough for the treatment of infants and for HIV prevention in infants born to infected mothers.
Yeah, so would you potentially be able to, would you have to use maybe 3 patches for different drugs, or could you maybe do it in 1 patch?
So the other cool thing about microneedle patches is they're scalable. You can make the neonatal patch, the infant patch, use the green patch from birth until age 1 month, use the green patch from 1 month to 3 months, use the blue patch from 3 months to 6 months. Or you can make 1 patch that's perforated, put a quarter of the patch on a newborn, put a half of a patch on an infant, put 3/4 of a patch.
Like postage stamps.
It's exactly like postage stamps.
I hope there's no millennials listening to this, because you don't know what postage stamps are.
True.
Wow, that's exciting. That is really exciting. So, what kind of drugs would lend themselves to being able to be developed to a long-acting application like this?
It depends upon what the goal is. If the goal is to develop a once-a-day patch, you could actually develop a once-a-day patch with the drugs we have now in 1 pill once-a-day regimens. If the goal is to develop a patch that's going to be on for a week or a month or longer than that, then you need to start thinking about drugs that have either very, very long half-lives or drugs that are not very water soluble and will sit in that microneedle and be delivered through the skin over a period of several days to several weeks.
Wow.
So it really depends upon the drug. But the once-a-day patch as a replacement for a once-a-day pill, we could probably use the drugs we currently have to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting. That is exciting, because it's not just children. There's a lot of adults that don't do well with swallowing pills.
Also true. And there are adults who have to have surgery or have a stroke, can't swallow a pill for maybe a few days to a few weeks. And right now,
because you can't eat anything before surgery, you can and keep your medication. Wow.
We do not have a good way to manage HIV-infected people who, for example, have stomach surgery and can't take anything by mouth for 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
And so this would give us a way to easily step in and replace their pills with an ARV nicotine Nicorette patch, if you will.
Wow, that's exciting.
Same idea, yeah.
That's exciting. Wow. And so you were telling me that before we went on air that there was a couple of posters that you all have?
So we have, in collaboration with a group at the University of Liverpool, we are presenting work we've done on the microneedle patches, showing what happens with the profile of several current anti-HIV drugs if they were incorporated into such a system, and looking at the ability to deliver a drug like that over a period of several days.
Excellent.
And so this is so-called modeling work. This is all computer-based work, but it's based on real data collected from these patches used in animals.
I see. So I guess the patch doesn't have to really be long-acting, because it's so easy to use. You just switch it out, and it's probably not going to want to last for an extended period of time on your skin anyway.
Exactly, and the downside to a long-acting patch, let's say you wanted a patch that would deliver drug for a month, you'd worry about what would happen if the patch gets wet, what would happen if the patch comes off. There's things that can happen to a patch that's left on the skin for several days. But a once-a-day patch, particularly for pediatric applications, really has a lot of advantages over our current 1 pill once a day or sprinkles or elixirs for kids that often don't taste very good.
Sure, sure. Sounds like a great program.
It's really, I think, a potential breakthrough, something that a lot of people don't know about that uses new technology that's really quite exciting.
It's exciting the technology is moving as quickly as it is. So that brings us to LEAP.
Yes.
What is LEAP all about?
So LEAP was an organization created through a grant from the National Institutes of Health 3 years ago. It is an international program that brings together experts in the pharmacology of long-acting drugs, the development of long-acting drugs, the approval of long-acting drugs, the marketing of long-acting drugs, and people from the community who will be using long-acting drugs to try to identify barriers to successful development and marketing, break those barriers down, take that knowledge and expertise and make that available to people who are going to be developing new long-acting anti-HIV drugs and formulations.
So it's a resource.
That's exactly what it is. It's a research program. It's the first research program of its kind ever developed by the National Institutes of Health, by NIH.
Interesting.
And it was created because of the perception that there is a lot of risk for a pharmaceutical company in trying to develop a long-acting anti-HIV formulation. There are a lot of potential regulatory hurdles. There are a lot of things that can happen in manufacturing and the clinical study of these drugs. And it's unclear once you bring the drug to market how large the market is going to be. And so the National Institutes of Health sees these long-acting anti-HIV drugs as being game changers for treatment and prevention. And this was a way to try to de-risk, if you will, the development of these drugs and encourage more people to develop more long-acting formulations so that they can achieve their true potential in HIV treatment and prevention.
Wow. So it sounds like there's a lot of potential for butting of heads with all of the different groups that you mentioned. You've got Liverpool, you've got Johns Hopkins, you've got God knows who else. You've got regulators, you have drug companies. I mean, this is developing medication, so people don't like to talk about what they have going on in the lab. How do you manage that?
So
I hear you had a good coup somewhere along the line.
Yeah, so we try to, if we know that people are going to have to talk about trade secrets, we try to keep those secrets off the agenda because it does complicate things. We like to keep people focused on mutual problems that we can solve together without having to violate anybody's confidence. However, we do have a working group that's trying to develop long-acting injectable treatments for tuberculosis. And that...
So not just HIV?
It's not just HIV. We're looking at TB as well. We put a group together that's outside of LEAP to work on long-acting treatments for malaria.
Wow.
Yeah. They just published a paper in January about the first long-acting formulation for malaria that showed efficacy in an animal model in mice who were challenged with mouse malaria.
Amazing.
Yeah, and one injection of this drug protected those mice from malaria challenge a month after the injection, suggesting they would have been protected for an entire month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
First time that's ever been done.
That's exciting.
So with the tuberculosis group, there's another disease that we think really could benefit from long-acting formulations. And that group involved collaborations between 2 drug companies, 3 universities, and the federal government of the United States. And so in order to make those discussions move forward in an efficient way, we had to negotiate a 6-way confidentiality agreement. 2 companies, 3 universities, and the federal government. It was not easy.
No.
It took about 4 months, but we did it.
Did you think about calling the Guinness Book about that?
It may be.
Might be a first.
It may be a first. I think you're right,
Wow.
Andy. I hadn't thought about that.
Wow.
That's probably true.
That's
yeah.
impressive. Well, it shows the willingness on 6 different entities to be able to participate together and act together. It shows, the potential that all those groups think the value of this is.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
And sometimes you've got to have that kind of protection in place to have the kinds of discussions we need to have to push the agenda forward. And I think that group has been very productive.
Yeah, and then LEAP doesn't necessarily do its own research.
LEAP is not actually funded to do its own research. We are funded as a research resource. So we are there to stimulate other people, either funded by the NIH or funded by the pharmaceutical industry or by foundations like the Gates Foundation,
Wow.
to do their own research. And all 3 of those groups, NIH, Gates, and the industry, are very interested in this area. There's a lot of research going on right now.
This sounds great. This could be a huge game changer.
Well, I was telling somebody just a few minutes ago, 100 years from now, none of us are going to be taking pills anymore. All of our drugs are going to be delivered through delivery technology we can't even imagine yet.
Wow.
Probably through our watches.
Wow, yeah, you never
It'll
know.
happen.
Apple's going to get into the drug business.
The microneedle watch, it's
Microneedle
coming.
watch. Wow, okay, so we got microneedles, we have long-acting injections that LEAP is looking at. I imagine there's other things like an implant.
So there were several presentations at this meeting related to a drug called EFDA. It's a nucleoside analog. It's like tenofovir or M-tricytidine or 3-TC. But it is an extremely potent drug. It's about 10 times more potent than those other drugs. And the drug itself has a very long half-life. And so it's the perfect agent for long-acting formulation. And Merck, which happens to make long-acting implantable contraceptives, is working on making long-acting implantable EFDA.
Wow.
And so they've shown animal data. They showed animal data at this meeting last year with an EFDA implant in rats that delivered drug far above the anti-HIV concentrations for 180 days, 6
That's
months
6
with
months.
one implant. And looking at the pharmacokinetic curve, you can easily imagine a 1-year EFDA implant, one implant that could deliver
Wow.
anti-HIV activity for a year.
So that could potentially be for prevention as well as treatment?
Absolutely. If used by itself, it could be used for PrEP, for
Wow.
prevention. If combined with other agents, it could be used for treatment. Right now, the challenge is, what are you going to combine it with?
Sure.
But there are agents out there in development that are approaching that kind of extended duration of delivery. So for example, some of the long-acting, broadly neutralizing monoclonal antibodies now deliver effective concentrations up to 6 months after a single injection.
Wow.
So we're getting there, Andy.
Wow.
It's a field that is moving surprisingly quickly.
That's amazing. So the one thing that I've heard in the past that people are a little bit fearful of, other than the size of the injection, the bolus that it might cause, but that's just, that comes along with the territory, I guess, is the tail, how long some of these drugs might last in the system. If maybe you were taking it for PrEP and say you ended up breaking up with your significant other and you weren't having any sexual activity and didn't feel like you needed PrEP anymore, so you just don't go and get your shots anymore, and then you have this long tail that might not be protective in 3 months or a year.
Yeah. So that is a significant concern with the intramuscular injections that are in development right now, specifically long-acting cabotegravir and long-acting rilpivirine. Long-acting cabotegravir has a very long tail that can last for up to a year after one injection. One of the advantages of some of these other technologies we've talked about, the transdermal patch or an implant, is when you want to stop it, just take it out. So a patch can be removed, an implant can be removed. And implants used for contraception are frequently removed by women who decide they want to get pregnant.
Oh,
It requires
makes
a very
sense.
minor in-the-office procedure, and presumably the same would apply to an anti-HIV implant. When you wanted to stop, you just take it out, and then you don't have to worry about this very long tail.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like lots and lots of tools are coming in the future.
Lots happening. It's a field everybody should be encouraged to keep up with. It's very exciting.
And there's a website they can go to learn about it.
We do indeed. Thank you for that plug. It's longactinghiv.org, www.longactinghiv.org. That's the LEAP website. We have plenty of good information. We have links to the iBase educational materials on long-acting HIV. We have
And
videotapes.
that's over in the UK?
That's in the UK.
Okay.
We have links, we have videotapes of all of the lectures from our conferences and workshops that people can listen to. We have links to all of the most important recent publications in this area for people who want to learn more. And it's a great resource if you want to find out what's happening in the long-acting arena.
So one-stop shopping for all you young investigators.
Indeed.
I like it. Well, thank you very much, Dr.
Thanks, Andy.
Dr. Flexner, for talking today, and we'll be anxious to hear in the future what LEAP's got going.
Great to talk to you.
Great talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks.